What would I love my day to be like? And one of the ways I play with the 4 phases, as an example, every morning when I get up, one of the first things I do is I've now created the habit. And this is a great winning tactic. If people do this, watch what it does for their life. As soon as I notice I'm starting to become conscious, I'm watching for the first thoughts that come into my mind. If they're negative or non-supportive whatsoever, I capture them, I let them go, and I replace them with something that supports me. So I'm designing my day. So I'm observing. And I'll even take 5 minutes sitting on the side of my bed. I'll close my eyes and I'll ask myself, what would a perfect day today look like?
You found your way to the Winning Tactics podcast with host Adam Sinkus. Adam discusses winning tactics with small business owners and entrepreneurs, uncovering processes and introducing the tools and solutions for enhancing the bottom line. Thanks again for finding your way to the Winning Tactics podcast, and now your host, Adam Sinkus.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another wonderful episode of the Winning Tactics podcast. Before we jump into the show, we got to do all those podcasty things. So jump on over to thewinningtactics.com, sign up for our free email list where you can get a copy of Becoming a Better Business Leader for doing that. So we appreciate all of your support there. And if not there, jump on any of the major podcast platforms and listen to the show there. Today's show, I'm excited about today's show because we are talking about busy versus productive, the energy we have in life, and how we can really control and build our what Robert calls the 4 phases of life. So I'm super excited. Robert, welcome to the show. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Oh, well, hey, Adam, I'm happy to be here. And I tell you what, you started me off with some great music to get my energy flowing. I love the intro music you've got going there. Very, very good. I'm like pumped. I'm listening to it. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. So, my name, Robert Raymond Riopel. I am an international best-selling author with my first book. I'm currently writing my second book right now. I am a person who's been blessed to travel around the world several times, being able to personally train over 500,000 students in live trainings that are anywhere from 3 days to 5 days long, up to 12 hours a day on stage for me, doing high impact. I'm a serial entrepreneur and I am an app designer and just loving to find ways to help as many people, especially business owners, that I can.
Well, we absolutely love it because, as business owners, and I'm sure you've experienced this and probably even still now, even with all of your knowledge, still experience a little bit. Life gets crazy and you start thinking, you start getting stuck working in everything instead of working on everything, and chaos ensues. And the next thing you know, you look really, really busy, but oh my gosh, you haven't accomplished anything.
Right.
So
you're hitting it right on the head. I'm like, man, do you have to bring this up right at this time of the beginning of the year for me and all that just to remind me? What are you trying to do? Are you watching me? Are you stalking me?
Oh, it's everybody though, right?
Honestly,
every business owner I know goes through phases like this. And so let's talk a little bit about how we get stuck into that space of busy versus productive, right? How do we get wrapped up in busy and not even realize that we're just busy and not doing anything?
Well, a couple things that I've experienced that cause that, Adam, is this. One, when we're going to talk about my 4 phases in a moment, is when people are trying to go against the phases instead of flow with them. Because in certain phases, you want to be doing certain things. That's one reason. But also most entrepreneurs, as you know very well, they really aren't entrepreneurs. They're solopreneurs. They're thinking they have to do everything. No one can do this as good as I can, or I can't afford to hire someone to do that, or whatever reason it is. And so the overwhelm comes in because they're trying to do everything. And, I'm going to give a winning tactic to your audience right off the bat, because I love the title of your show as well. And it's something a mentor taught me a number of years ago that I embrace more and more every day, because I'm one of those people that I think I have to do everything. And man, does it drive me crazy. And he said to me, Robert, here's the deal. As an entrepreneur, you are only able to do in your business what only you can do in your business. Meaning, if someone else can do it, then why are you doing it? Your time is to be focused on what you're great at. And I'll kind of use an analogy. A really good friend of mine, 13 years incarcerated. As a young hood, he got caught up in gangs. And when he was sent to jail, he knew the pecking order and he wanted to be the top guy. And so every jail they put him into, he'd pick a fight with number 1 or 2 because he knew he wanted to run that jail. And I was talking to him because he finally turned his life around. He took ownership that he was the reason he was in jail. No one else was to blame because he was good at playing the victim. And that's another thing that entrepreneurs do. They get good at playing the victim. It's because of my suppliers, because of my customers, because of my staff, whatever it is. Own who you are. Own that you're the person running it. And he was now travels the world teaching countries how to keep their youth out of jail. And I was helping him and coaching him because I love to coach people in business. And he said, Robert, these gigs around the world, they're few and far between. I need something that, can really help me out more. And I said, well, why don't you take your lessons from jail and put them to business? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, Andre, as an example, you spent 13 years in jail. Were you ever in solitary confinement? He goes, yeah, 5 years of the 13, I was in solitary confinement. I said, and that's the worst punishment they can give someone, correct? He goes, yep, that's why they do it. I said, so isn't that what solopreneurs, entrepreneurs are doing to themselves? They're actually putting themselves in solitary confinement, thinking they have to do it all themselves and wondering why they get frustrated. And so another winning tactic, you have to be willing to be vulnerable and ask for help. We're taught to be tough, figure it out on your own. Screw that. Ask for help. Get people to assist you. So those are a couple winning tactics on how to not be as busy and actually be able to get more productive.
I love that. There's times in entrepreneurship and in business to be scrappy and get your hands dirty and do everything. But the second you can get out of that, and the second you can live in, as my friend Chuck Hester says, your zone of genius,
Yes.
You become ultimately way more powerful in your business. So I love that you pointed out. Let's dive into this 4 phases of life conversation because I'm really, really intrigued by this. So I think we need to introduce what do you mean the 4 phases of life? And then I think we can probably dive into each one of those and what they mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's what people don't realize is we're flowing through life every single day. And so it's not meaning we need to be doing the same thing all the time, because what happens is, as an example, say chaos comes into your life. And I know that's never happened for you, Adam. You've never had any chaos. Never. When chaos comes into people's life, they resist it. They want to fight it. Why me? And so that resistance causes more chaos. But if you understand and realize that chaos is actually natural and you embrace it instead of resisting it, you can actually use it to help you. And so the 4 phases help people understand how do they flow through life by understanding what each phase is, what you do and don't do in that phase. And if you actually fall in and allow, I love how a friend of mine put it. He said, instead of being willing to live life, courageously allow life to live you. So if you go with the flow of the 4 phases and understand them, you'll find that you actually have success comes easier, more natural, and it's not as stressful. So that's what the 4 phases, when I identify them for people, all of a sudden they're getting one-handed claps. You're like, no wonder I was struggling at that time. I should have been doing this instead of this. And it's like,
My friend Lori Bruns, she talks about work-life flow, not work-life balance, and it's kind of along the same principle of what you're talking about here. So
yeah.
You call out the first phase as the observation phase. You use a wonderful acronym, right? So what is the acronym in the 4 phases, and then we'll dive into those.
Yeah, absolutely. The acronym is OPEN, because have you ever had a brick wall get thrown up in front of you? Well, wouldn't it be great to be able to be like Aladdin, say open sesame? And so when you understand the phases, it allows you to do that. So the O stands for observation phase. The P stands for the Pamper phase. The E stands for the energy phase. And the N, it's the second letter of the word, is for unclutter phase. So those are the 4 phases. And yeah, let's dive into observation phase right away. And I'm going to ask you a question, Adam. Have you ever heard the saying, someone say, hey, you're a human being, not a human doing? Have you ever heard that saying?
I have not. That's a new one to me.
Okay, and usually entrepreneurs hear it from families and friends and spouses when they're really being too busy because they're always doing. Well, in the observation phase, you're neither of those. You're actually a human creating. See, in the observation phase, this is the time to actually ask yourself, what would I like my business to look like? What would I like to accomplish? This is the time to actually take time to take in a deep breath and let it out, and then come to present and focus, meditate. This is not the time to figure out how you're going to do it. This is where I'm a big believer in vision boards. And I don't know if you do vision boards, Adam, but I am a huge believer in vision boards. And and this is the time I would create a new vision board. And I would stick it up somewhere where I can see it. And again, not how am I going to do it? It's just, what would I love my day to be like? And one of the ways I play with the 4 phases, as an example, every morning when I get up, one of the first things I do is I've now created the habit. And this is a great winning tactic. If people do this, watch what it does for their life. As soon as I notice I'm starting to become conscious, I'm watching for the first thoughts that come into my mind. If they're negative or non-supportive whatsoever, I capture them, I let them go, and I replace them with something that supports me. So I'm designing my day. So I'm observing. And I'll even take 5 minutes sitting on the side of my bed. I'll close my eyes and I'll ask myself, what would a perfect day today look like for me? And I'll walk myself. What do I see? Who am I with? What am I eating? What am I doing? And I walk myself through it. Now, does that mean my day is going to go like that? Maybe not. But because I observed first thing in the morning, I'm allowing it to set me up for a better day than waking up and going, oh, today's going to be a crappy day. Because I guarantee you, we've all had those. You start off that way, what kind of day are you going to end up with? A pretty crappy day. So in that observation phase, be willing to be observant. What do you really want to create in your life and your business, your health, all that?
It's really interesting, right? Probably about a month ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, I put a post up on LinkedIn about that in the mindset, right? And it was a Monday, and I woke up, and I don't know what was in me. Like, I hadn't had any coffee, but I was just like super like excited for the week, and it was like a weird excitement, something that I had. It doesn't happen often in that amplitude of excitement. And so I sat down at the computer, normal morning routine, and hop on LinkedIn, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm never going to say it sucks that it's Monday ever again. I consciously made that decision. I have not said anything like that. I don't talk about, I can't believe it's already hump day. Like, I don't talk about any of that crap anymore. And the outlook I have on the week is infinitely more powerful just by changing that one little simple thing. No longer am I looking forward to Friday because it's the day before the weekend. Now, if I'm looking forward to Friday, it's because there's a meeting going on, or something super exciting that I want to do, or, it's that excitement is around an event, not around the fact that, oh my gosh, the work week is finally over.
Exactly. And I want your listeners to understand what we're teaching them here is very simple to implement, but do not let that simplicity fool you. Because that's another way the mind will try to take people out. They'll go, it cannot be that easy. Well, if that's what you believe, then it won't. But if you go, you know what? I'm going to allow it to be that easy. Then watch how you'll flow.
Oh yeah. It's like a light switch. I mean, you turn the light on and all of a sudden the world opens up.
Yep, absolutely.
So no, I really appreciate that. From the observation phase, we go into that pamper phase, right? And tell us a little bit about what the pamper phase is about.
Well, I'm going to let you know, and all your entrepreneurs, your solopreneurs, listen closely. This is the phase that most entrepreneurs do not allow themselves to have. They don't think they deserve it. They don't think they have time for it. And this is the one that will sabotage them because they don't do it. The pamper phase is about taking care of you. This is where you are a human being. This is about maybe getting a massage, maybe planning a vacation when you're in this phase, going on a vacation, maybe taking 20 minutes and reading a book to just catch your breath during the day, doing something that you enjoy. Because as they say, Adam, you cannot give what you do not have. So if you're not taking care of you, how are you going to take care of your customers? How are you going to take care of your family? And what happens now, if you don't take care of you, now the love that you have for what you're doing or other people become what's called a needy love. You're loving them or it for what it gives you, not just loving. Like, imagine loving for my wife and myself. We've now been married 32 and a half years. And I love my wife for who she is, not what she gives me, not what she contributes to me. I just love her with all her greatness, all her flaws, all of that. And that's how she loves me, because we all have flaws. And so when people don't take care of themselves by pampering themselves, they get caught up in stress and struggle. And then they start looking outside of themselves for people that can solve what they're missing. And then they wonder why all of a sudden a partnership that seemed to work in the beginning all of a sudden goes awry, because they didn't have the partnership in a good phase of it. So in the pamper phase, it is about giving yourself permission. And one of the things I do, and here's another winning tactic for your entrepreneurs, I live by my calendar on my phone. And so when I go to do my calendar, my wife and I, the first thing we put on our calendar before anything else is we put pamper pieces, ways that we take care of ourselves. Because think of in money, they say that wealth rule number one is pay yourself first.
Yep.
And that's so true in money. So if it's true in money, why wouldn't you do that in your time as well? Right?
100%.
So we put that on our calendars first, and then now work in that gets put on after we've made sure that we have date nights, time for each other, time for ourselves, time for family, time for our health, all of that. So those are the things that is really important that you make sure is that you have those pamper pieces.
I love that. I was talking to an entrepreneur the other day, just starting up an e-commerce and retail business. And she was talking about how her customers are expecting this turnaround like 24 hours a day from her. And I said to her, I looked at her, I said, what expectation have you set for your customers? Because I'll be honest with you, I have a day rate and I have an after hours rate. And that after hours rate will make you stop and think as business, because I serve businesses in the marketing space. It'll make them stop and think, do I really need to reach out to Adam to solve this now? Or can it wait till the morning? Right. And it's not because I'm trying to nickel and dime them. It's because I value that time. And that
That's right.
time is more important to me than a customer that's going to demand all of my time and take away from the things that are important for me. The reason why I'm in business, the reason why I do what I do every day. So, I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs and as startups and as solopreneurs, we get stuck in this. I have to be available 24 hours a day, and then you see the messages, the Grant Cardones of the world, the Gary V's of the world, that are putting out these messages that are saying, you have to be on 24 hours a day. You have to do this, and sleep is overrated and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, the sleep is overrated when you're at the tail end of launching a project and you're on launch week and you have to put in 80 hours just to get that project out.
Yes. And see, and you're hitting on what's going to be the next phase. But I'm going to say this, there's a universal principle that says this: you will teach others how to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, as a business owner, if people are expecting from you 24-hour turnaround, it's because you've taught them it's okay to expect that from you and demand that from you. So take the ownership of it. And if it's not working for you, then choose to change it. And I'm not saying you have to be a jerk about it. You don't have to be I'll keep it to jerk, PG about it. You have to sit there and say, hey, you know what? Like, I love what you said. Well, here's my hourly rate and here's my after hour rates. And if you want to pay those and make them so exorbitantly high that the people that really need it, they're going to pay for it and they're going to get great service from you. But don't make it so close that people are willing to always pay the after hours and you're now busy again. Busy. If you don't value your time, other people won't.
Exactly. No, I love that. And just to drive it home, my schedule, Wednesday night is bowling night, Thursday night is cornhole night, and I don't think about work those nights. I don't schedule anything those nights. And it is a non-negotiable. I am not available those nights every week. So
Exactly.
that's my me time. So
Yeah. And that's important too, is people go, well, okay, pamper time. Well, that'll be just with family. That'll be with this. That'll be with that. All of this. No, you've actually got to be able to make sure you're taking time for you as well. Because if you don't take time for you, and that, again, it could be something like, I love to read. So 10 minutes to read, 20 minutes to read. Or I use, if I'm having a very busy day, I have an app on my phone called Calm, Calm. I love the sound of rain. So I'll sit down for 20 minutes, put my earpieces on, and for 20 minutes, I'll just listen to the sound of water and it quiets my mind.
no, I absolutely love that. And there are those moments where you need to calm yourself. We are going to pause here for just a moment because I want to thank my sponsors for the show. Cowork
Absolutely.
Hub Virtual is doing absolutely amazing things in the virtual co-working space. So think about all the pleasures you get in a co-working space as a solopreneur, as a coach, as a consultant, and take that online and get all of those advantages. You get an office with where you can actually video conference with up to 10 people. And we have conference rooms that will support up to 50 people. So you can run your master classes as well. So check them out. Learn more at coworkhubvirtual.com. And we thank them for their continued support of the Winning Tactics. We've been talking a lot about the 4 phases of life and busy versus productive. And we talked a little bit about that observation phase, getting into just viewing what's happening around you, understanding what's going on, and setting a path that is goal oriented to where you want it to go instead of where the day is going to just randomly take you. We talked a little bit about that pamper phase and taking care of you as an entrepreneur. And now we're jumping into the energy phase. So tell us a little bit about the energy phase, because I think we can all use a little more energy in our life.
Well, yeah, in the right place. And see, this is the get her done phase. This is when you do the emails. This is when you do the meetings. This is when you do the putting together those your launches, all of that. And see, this is why, and let's go back to the pamper phase. This is why the pamper phase is so important. See, when I get into a full-on energy phase, I can pull an 18-hour day. And at the end, am I tired? Yeah. But am I burnt out? No. Because I've taken care of me, when I'm done, I'm like, oh, that was a great day. And what happens in the energy phase is this is where you get productive. And one of the biggest things I've noticed, especially with entrepreneurs, they are really, 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 really good at being busy. Because probably the biggest thing I hear, and I'm sure you do as well, Adam, is I don't have time. I am so busy. I can't add this on, or I can't take that on. And most entrepreneurs, well, most people in life, they're really good at being busy, but they're not necessarily good at being productive. And there's a world of difference. And so going back to my calendar, after I put on my calendar my pamper pieces, the next thing I put on is what I call focus time. And focus time is where I get productive. So I mentioned earlier, I'm writing my second book right now called The Authority Key. Now, I could come into my office with the intention, I'm going to work on my book today. 8 hours later, I'll leave my office going, man, was I busy? And then I start looking, I'm like, wow, I didn't seem to get much done on my book. Why is that? And if I look, also it's like, well, I was on social media. I was doing instant messages. I was sending emails. I was doing texts. I was doing all this stuff, being busy. I wasn't being productive. And so with focus time, if you look at the science, you look at the research, and they all vary on how long you could truly be focused in. I found for me a sweet spot is an hour. Anything over that, I start to squirrel. I start to get the distractions. So I'll put on my calendar, I'll say 10 to 11, write book. In that hour, I come into my office, everything else is shut off, no distractions, and I work on the book. And I've noticed that in 1 hour of productivity, for me, it equals about 6 hours of being busy. So for all those people that are going, I don't have time, you get productive, you will free up so much time. It'll blow you away. It'll blow your hair off. That's what happened for me, man. I got to say. So when it's time to be busy, don't be afraid to get the energy flowing and just get into it, but be productive.
That's a really interesting perspective, right? Because I agree. Once you take care of yourself, like the energy comes, and it comes very, very naturally, but you've got to harness it, because man, it is so easy I'm a Clubhouse junkie, and it is so easy to get sucked into jumping up on stage. I listen to it like a podcast most days, but there are days where like I get totally sidetracked because I get invited into a room. The next thing I know, I'm on stage, and the next thing I know, I'm like halfway moderating the room, and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And it's so easy to break into that space without even realizing it. So I like the fact that you mentioned blocking out time. That to me is really, really powerful. One of the things I've done that's helped me out immensely is in my networking, I've become very, very purposeful about all those 15-minute meeting requests. Let's do a 15-minute intro call. Well, I figured out I was wasting almost 10 hours a week in 15-minute intro calls. And so I've become very, very pointed, and I, even to the point where I've had somebody tell me, well, you don't have to be rude about saying no. I'm like, because I flat out ask people, I'm like, what are we hoping to accomplish from this call?
Exactly.
And if they're kind of not clear that it's a sales pitch, but it kind of seems like a sales pitch, I will flat out ask them as a follow-up question, are you trying to sell me your product, or are you trying to find out a way we can work together?
Yep.
And maybe it's rude, maybe it's not, but that's one way I found to control my calendar, because that energy needs to be used in the right spaces.
And it's right back to what I had said a little while ago. You teach others how to treat you. And some people aren't going to be able to respect it. And you have no control over that. You have no control over that, how other people respond. One of the things I'm doing with the new year is I'm doing 20-minute strategizing calls for my students, where there's no sales. It's strictly about, they have to fill out a questionnaire. They get on a 20-minute call with me, and I let them know we only have 20 minutes. So I'm recording the call. I don't want you to say anything unless I ask you questions. I want you to take no notes, because I'm going to give you a link to the recording so you can listen to it as much as you want. I want you to be present. And I've got all the information I already need. I may ask you a couple clarifying questions. Does this make sense? Are you ready? And they're like, yeah. And in 20 minutes, I can create 7-figure businesses for people. And it's because as soon as they try to, get into a story, it's like, stop. And I let them know, I'm going to tell you to stop, because I'm not going to listen to your story. I don't have time. I just have time to deliver what you need to go to the next level. And when we do that, and all of a sudden I finish these calls, people are like, oh my God, how were you able to do all that? It's like, well, I took my experience, kept you out of the way of your beliefs of what works and doesn't work. And I'm telling you from my experience, here's what I want you to do. And it takes some people, they don't get it. Other people, they embrace it. Next thing you know, they've got a new 7-figure income coming in, and they're like, oh.
Well, they have to get out of their own way. And I think part of that comes into this unclutter phase. If I were just to fathom a guess here.
Yeah. So, and another name for the unclutter phase is chaos. And as I mentioned before, most people, when chaos comes in their life, they resist it. And so, but if you understand, as human beings, we're meant to evolve. That's one of our purposes on life. We're not meant to stay stagnant. We're meant to evolve. And chaos is what forces us to keep evolving. And we have a choice. Have you ever noticed, Adam, that maybe God, the universe, sends you a little message, and if you ignore it, it doesn't go away. It comes back again a little more intense, right? Until you get it. Well, that's people resisting trying to move forward. So when you understand to actually embrace chaos, and chaos is natural, all of a sudden watch what can happen for your life. Because when you're at that energy phase, you get stuck in what's called knowing. Oh, I know this, I know that, I've done this, I've done that. And the universe will come along and go, nope, let's kind of switch that up. And so the reason I call it the unclutter phase is because this is the time where you can actually volunteer. And listen to this, courageously, another winning tactic for your listeners, courageously volunteer for chaos. And the way you do that is you look at what's cluttered up that you can unclutter. It might be a belief that just hasn't been working for you, but you've hung on to it. So you unclutter it, you let it go. It might be, every couple of weeks I come into my office and I start straightening my office out. I look at the paperwork that I don't need, I shred it or toss it or whatever, and I unclutter, I declutter, right? It might be going into your refrigerator. Whew, there's something in there that needs to be removed. You clean it out. So by volunteering to unclutter, all of a sudden you'll notice the harsh lessons don't come as big, and you can actually flow with life instead of, oh my God, why is this happening to me? And that's why I say you have to courageously be willing to let life live you, because chaos is coming. So either embrace it or resist it. See which one works for you better.
Long ago, I had somebody sum up for me I think it was actually, no, it was The 1 Minute Manager from Ken Blanchard. I don't know if you've ever read that book or not.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite books of all time. But he talks about you have to figure out what are controllables and what are uncontrollables. And
That's right.
as soon as you encounter one of those uncontrollables, you need to take the monkey off your back and give it back to the person that threw it at you, or the thing that threw it at you, and not worry about it, because you aren't going to change it. You can't change it. And so, it's just about how do we put that back, back in the place where it belongs, and just worry about the stuff that we can control. And I think that's what you're talking about here in this unclutter phase, is how do we get back into that space where we can, own what we can own and move past what we can't control.
That's right. And in this phase, this is the time to actually destroy things in your life that aren't working. And that may sound harsh, especially when I actually follow it up by saying it may mean destroying a relationship that isn't working, whether business or personal, because so many people hang on to so much stuff, so many relationships, so many, fears, so many doubts, so many, lack of self-esteem. All the traveling I've done around the world, probably the biggest obstacle I see for almost the largest majority of all of my students that riddles them and holds them back is low self-esteem. So if you can allow yourself to let that go and actually own your greatness with confidence, not with arrogance, big difference there. But like, hey, world, here's who I am. And look, either you're going to like me or you won't. And if you like me for who I am, that's awesome. If you don't like me for who I am, that's awesome. Because how much time, and I can only speak from my own experience, how much time I used to waste trying to get everybody to like me, thinking I could. Oh my God, what a journey, right? Talk about pressure.
Oh yeah. No, that's an important thing. Like, I look at some of the relationships that I've ditched over the years, and I say that intentionally in a bit of a harsh manner, because you know what, those people were such a negative influence in my progress forward that I wasn't ever going to proceed forward with them in the picture, at least not to where I wanted to be. So, so I ditched them. I ditched the negativity, uncluttered the negativity, right, and found people that better matched my direction, my path, as I observe things. So
yeah.
I love
and
it.
that's the thing, is you got to be willing to let go of something good to get something great, and let go of something great to get something phenomenal. And probably one of the biggest holdbacks I hear from students of why they haven't created success, they're like, well, Robert, if I get successful, does that mean I'm going to lose friends? Well, if you have that fear, you absolutely are. But in reality, yeah, you're going to lose some friends. Some of your friends are going to go, you know what? Wow, I love the direction you're going in. And they're going to step up their game. And they're going to be so thankful. Some friends are going to just be so stuck in their comfort zone. They're going to go, yeah, you're changing. I don't want to be around you. And if you change yourself to come back to their level, it's like an anchor holding you in place. And I love the saying that, show me the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I'll tell you all about your life. I'll tell you what your success level is going to be, your comfort level, where you're going. Because I just have to meet the people you spend all the time with. If you don't like where you're at, change your environment.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be huge. It could be little steps.
Yeah, no, it is amazing. The five people closest to you are directly reflective of who you are, and it's a scary truth when you start to think about who those people really are in your life, and it can either be really eye opening and terrifying, or it can be really eye opening and enlightening. And
Absolutely.
if it's terrifying, it's one of those things. I think you have to respectfully understand that it's probably best to make a change.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of that. A whole lifetime ago, like 20 plus years ago, I used to be a Domino's Pizza franchisee. My wife and I were franchisees for 9 years. And in the beginning, we had the lack mentality. And in our city that we had our one store in, it was always about we have to have the best deal. We have to have the cheapest prices. We have to have. And so anytime we ran a great sale, our business would boom. But the very next week, the next pizzeria would offer a special, and all of our customers would go to them because we had no loyal customers. They were just looking for price. But that's what all the franchisees were. No, we got to have the best price. We got to sale. Finally, one of the franchisees said, "Stop. I refuse to do that anymore." He says, "We have the greatest customer service out of anybody in the city in our quality and the way we take care of our customers." He says, "I'm going to raise my prices." Well, but what if we lose customers? You're going to, but you're going to make a higher profit. And he had the courage to stand up to the rest of us. And when we started trying it out and adopting it, also we started raising our prices, not a ton more, but raising them up where we could actually make a profit. All of a sudden, yeah, our sales went down a little bit in the beginning, but our profits, we were actually making more money than busting our asses trying to make a ton of pizza for no money. And all of a sudden, it was like mind blowing. It's like, why didn't you teach us this earlier? And he's like, I tried. You weren't ready to listen.
I tell my children that all the time. You aren't ready to listen to this.
Let me tell you how brilliant Dad is. When you're ready to listen, you'll get it.
I look back on life though, right? As a teenager, even into my early 20s, my parents, I thought they were dumb as rocks and disconnected from life. And well, 25-ish or so, something went wrong in my house, and instead of calling a repairman and paying an exorbitant amount of money, I was like, oh, my dad taught me how to fix this. And all of a sudden it clicked. I'm like, dang, they were really freaking smart.
Yep. Absolutely.
So this is really, really interesting how that all takes you through the four phases of life. As I think about my life, like, man, I've hit every one of those countless times, and I can think of very specific examples.
Yeah, you're constantly going through it, because as soon as you go through the unclutter, it puts you right back in the observation phase. Because once you've let go of something, now you're open to bring something new into your life. So yeah, they flow continuously. And I'll tell you, you have no control of when you enter or exit a phase. If you think, control has got to be one of the greatest cosmic jokes out there, thinking you have control of anything. You don't. So just flow with it instead of thinking you have to control it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. We are getting towards the end of time, and we have had a phenomenal discussion so far today. But I always like to wrap up the show with a final thought. So I leave the floor to you for your final thought.
Yeah, I believe, Adam, that the greatest gift that anybody can give this planet is to be themselves in all your authenticity. And like I said, either people are going to like you or they don't. And if they don't, that has nothing to do with you. But if you try to change yourself to be liked by someone, you're giving your power away to them. So especially as an entrepreneur, own who you are with that confidence, not the arrogance, and watch how the world, especially around you, becomes a better place.
I love it. I'm excited for this because, man, I'm going to take so much from this conversation and just start applying it in different spaces in my life. I think I already am in certain ways, which makes me feel really good. But I definitely see some opportunities to work through and find more ways to implement this in my life. So appreciate that. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about the four phases of life, or maybe get your book? Because, man, if it's as good as this conversation was, it's a phenomenal book.
Well, I'll tell you, my book, Success Left a Clue, my first book, it is me. You read it and you go, yeah, he's quirky. He's got bad jokes. It's all of that. And it's got wisdom in it. This is me. And, you were so gracious to invite me on your podcast, Adam, that as a special gift from you and I to your audience. See, I believe that your time is one of the most precious commodities that you have. And so the fact that you took your time to interview me, but more importantly, that your audience has taken their time to listen to this show. If they just simply go to robertriopel.com, just my name, robertriopel.com, they're actually going to be able to download the entire digital copy of this book as our gift to them. Now, I am going to say this, though. It comes with a caveat, though. See, I didn't write this book so that you could read it, put it on the shelf, and make it shelf help. That doesn't do anybody any good. I know that, I go through 6 life-changing habits in this book, and the second habit or third habit is taking action. Biggest difference I've seen between success and non-success, successful people take action. So all the way through, I wrote it like a workbook. So all the way through, I have what's called action steps. And I'll even say in the book, did you do the last action step? If not, stop reading right now, go back, do the action, and then continue reading. Because I know people are creatures of habit. So that's the easiest way to stay connected with me. Because if they download the book, they're going to get some great value. If they do the work, they do the action steps, I guarantee their life will go to another level. And then they'll be able to stay connected with me that way.
Absolutely fantastic. We'll make sure we get the link for that in the show notes for everybody to find. And as always, we really appreciate you coming to the show and sharing your infinite wisdom with us. And we appreciate everybody that's listening to the show as well. Don't forget to jump on over to thewinningtactics.com where you can find all of our past episodes and upcoming news and blogs and all kinds of stuff, because there is a lot coming in 2022 with the Winning Tactics. So keep an eye out for that. And don't forget to sign up for our mailing list so you don't miss it. Because like Robert said, shelf help. We don't want you to put us on the shelf. We want you to come back week after week. So we appreciate everybody and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Well, that wraps up yet another episode of the Winning Tactics Podcast. You can find Adam on both the LinkedIn and Facebook platforms. And to support the show and ensure the success of the podcast, would you kindly consider visiting Patreon.com/Adam Sinkus? We greatly appreciate it. And until next time, from the Winning Tactics Podcast, remember, culture is how your team behaves when no one is looking. Take good care, and thanks for listening.